What up, y'all? This is your Don Israel coming to you live from Lit, asking y'all to subscribe to the channel. So make sure y'all subscribed, make sure y'all liking the videos, make sure y'all commenting, and make sure you turn on your notifications that let you know when new videos are dropping. We're dropping them daily, and you want to be on it because we on it, all right? So keep it lit, keep it locked, subscribe, we out. Marduce is a drink. What's going on, y'all? This is your boy, your Don Israel, aka Liddy Fontaine. Pretty Lit is what they call me. And I'm here on another episode of Lit, the premier platform for all things literary, swaggy, and everything in between. Today's guest is the beautiful executive director of the National Book Foundation, Lisa Lucas. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Showed up in a beautiful black dress. Could you stand up? We have the swag cam that we do. We go through the whole outfit.
All right.
So take us through the fit from bottom to top.
Well, I only have on the one dress.
Okay.
It's from APC.
Okay. That's it.
And
it's very nice.
It's very comfortable.
Getting very Diane Carroll from it. I'm loving it. All right, and what we got with the flats?
They're just some Black J. Crew flats.
Okay, and then you came in with some glasses. Can we get the fit appeal? Can we just get the whole?
I have to put the glasses on.
Let's just get the effect of it.
These are the sunglasses.
And where did you get those glasses?
I don't know. It's some store in California.
Okay, cool. So Lisa is always swaggy. She's always coming through, and she's brought more swag via the books. So want to get right into it. One, I know it's early, but I want to have you. I know you don't drink the liquor, so we're gonna have you. I'm gonna tap some into the bottle.
Okay.
Just so you could get a little taste. But this is Marduce.
Fair enough.
It's the gin and juice of Lit. So what we're gonna have you do is you're gonna open your bottle.
Okay.
Right. You going? Do you need?
Oop, hold on.
Go boom.
Got it. Cheers.
Cheers. And just take a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I'm literally just gonna do.
Oh Jesus. A little early for the.
That's it.
All right.
That's it. It's almost like you're not even gonna taste that.
Do I just have to shake it?
Like little shake it. I don't even think you need to shake that up. It's just so little of it.
All right. Let's see. Okay. That's not much of it, so it tastes mostly like apple juice. Fair enough.
Well, thank you for
You
drinking.
can handle that, of course. Cheers.
You did it for the culture.
To literature.
I appreciate you. So, right into it.
Okay.
Talk to me about the first book, the first things that were your sort of passageway into literature.
Sure. I mean, I've always been a reader. My grandma always had books around. My mother always had books around. My stepmother always had books around. My grandfather was always reading. So it was always just kind of like a thing. That was, it was being read to you a lot when I was little. They always seemed like things that everybody valued and was excited about. People would go to the bookstore and they'd be really excited about getting their books. And so it always just felt like a thing that was super valuable. When I was little, I remember loving, do you remember that book, The Lonely Doll? It's a photography book. It's kind of like dark. I looked at it recently and I was just like, oh my God, this is like rough for a children's book. But it's like about this little girl or this doll that's very lonely.
No,
It's just a bunch of black and white photos, in various spaces playing with jewelry and makeup, and they're very like sort of dark and sort of gloomy. And I just loved that book. I don't know why.
And your background, you grew up in Jersey?
Yeah, I'm from Teaneck, New Jersey, and Montclair also.
And I know your pops works in the music industry.
My dad's a musician and a record producer.
Yeah, and he produced some big records.
He did some cool ones, yeah.
Some cool ones. And your mother did, what was her?
She worked in advertising. She still does. Works in advertising.
Okay. And you have a little brother.
I do.
And
he's a writer.
Siblings. What's the siblings? It's just you and him?
It's just me and him.
Okay.
And he's my half brother, so he's 13 years younger than me. So he's the little one.
Okay. So give me the portrait of Lisa Lucas. What is it like for you navigating Teaneck, New Jersey? Young black woman, young black girl at that time.
Teaneck was great.
Yeah.
I grew up in Teaneck always, but I went to a school in Englewood, New Jersey, and that was like not as diverse as the town that I grew up in.
Right.
So I feel like as
diverse
a little kid,
like predominantly white or diverse?
It was predominantly
black?
White.
Okay.
So I was one in my class, because we had very small classes. I think I had a class of 25 that I went to school with from like kindergarten through 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And I think there were 3 of us in my class by the time we were in the 6th grade that were black. And then everybody else was, there were other kids. There was like an Indian kid, and, there were a bunch of different folks, but primarily it was like a very white school. So it's like
Right.
I remember feeling kind of like other.
Okay.
I feel like growing up in that school. But on the flip side, like when I went home and I was playing with my neighborhood friends, it was a really diverse town.
Yeah.
So I grew up with tons of black kids, tons of Latino kids, tons
Yeah.
of, everybody. It was like really, Teaneck, like for a very short period of time, was that kind of like ideal, like melting pot town. It was one
Okay.
of the most diverse places in the country, I think. It was really progressive. Politically, or at least it seemed as such. I think going backwards, you wonder if was as progressive and
Yeah.
as idyllic as the memory is. But it's like, but I really just grew up with all different kinds of friends, and people really also cognizant of our differences. So it wasn't like
helps.
it wasn't like we were all just diverse and like we took it for granted. It was like a conversation. There were a lot of interracial families that lived in that town.
Okay.
Everybody was really like, I mean, I feel like I grew up in a place where people were really proud of their Jewish culture. People were really proud of their black culture. People were really proud of, their Puerto Rican culture.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like, it didn't feel like we ignored it.
Like it was just that
we came
weird
up thinking
tension.
about it, but not thinking about it in a bad way, thinking about it in a way that helped to incorporate
Yeah.
one another. So it's like, I think that was a really good
Yeah.
place to grow up and a really good time to grow up in that place.
Okay. And so the way you use books, right? A lot of people describe books. Several people came on the show described the book as like a way they use it as a place of refuge. Do you see books the same way?
Sure. I mean, well, my first relationship to books was I was an only child, right?
For a
So
long
I was
time,
always,
yeah.
and I was really energetic. I came, out the gates with a lot of energy, and I would wear everybody out.
Yeah.
And so you'd also run out of things to do. You'd be, it's like there's only so much TV you can watch. There's only
Yeah.
so much time you could spend running around in the backyard with your friends, and so books were this thing that were really engrossing for me. And
Right.
so it's like when I wanted to do something and there was nobody to do something with.
Right.
Those were people I could hang out with, or a place that I could go into that was really satisfying.
Right.
I think as even at a very young person, I think I was aware of like the limits of place. Like I knew I lived in this town and that was where my world was, but that there was this bigger world outside of the town that I lived in. And at 10 or 14, it's like you have limited options in terms of moving
Yeah.
and getting around. And so instantly books, sort of opened up the
Right.
spaces that I could inhabit.
Yeah.
Even if it was, more intellectual or, in my mind that I was sort of visiting or knowing about these places, it felt like there was just a bigger world by being able to access books. But then I think as I got older, it also became a place, not so much as a refuge. I don't know that I read for like to find a place of solace as much, but I read to like still feel bigger. It's like I feel like
Yeah.
every time I read a book, I am more. Every
Ooh,
time I
I
finish
like
a book,
that.
I am more. I
That
am
sounds Whitman-esque.
larger, and so I think that in that you hit a certain age, and it's like, and you just want more from the
Yeah.
world, and I think that books bring that to me.
So you brought more books than was asked. So I think that's a great transition into. Can we bring some of these on camera?
Sure.
Just so we can see what.
I think I stole that copy from my mom's basement.
So we have I
Years
love
ago.
myself when I am laughing, and the title is way longer, right? I love
Yeah.
myself when I'm laughing. Then again, when I'm looking mean and impressive.
Which is my favorite.
Yeah. And then you have
Got
Nolita.
Lolita.
Lolita. Sorry. And then we have some Baldwin. So can you read some few like the passages that you wanted to read?
Sure.
Kind of give
I
people.
only have two.
All right.
But one of my favorites, and one of the things that I sort of, as we learned earlier, that I only sort of know by heart, but I used to know completely by heart, is the opening to Lolita, which I think is quite famous and people really like it. But I'll read that because it's one of my very favorite things.
Okay.
Lolita. Light of my life, fire of my loins, my sin, my soul, Lolita. The tip of the tongue taking a trip of 3 steps down the palate to tap at 3 on the teeth, Lolita. She was low, plain low in the morning, standing 4 feet 10 in one sock. She was Lola in slacks. She was Dolly at school. She was Dolores on the dotted line. But in my arms, she was always Lolita. Did she have a precursor? She did, indeed, she did. In point of fact, there may have been no Lolita at all had I not loved, one summer, a certain initial girl child in a princedom by the sea. Oh, when? About as many years before Lolita was born as my age was that summer. You can always count on a murderer for a fancy prose style. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, exhibit number 1 is what the serifs, The misinformed, simple, noble winged seraphs envied. Look at this tangle of thorns.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful.
Let's leave that up there so people know what to look for.
I mean, obviously, it's about written by a disgusting person who's a pedophile, right? Like,
oh damn. Is that what that? Oh,
yeah. So Lolita,
shit.
right? Like Humbert is like this girl.
The R.
Lolita
Kelly,
is
the R.
the
Kelly.
girl child that he had the R. Kelly.
God damn it.
But it really is just such a perfect opening, and the language is gorgeous, and the play with language I think is so interesting.
Give me the world around it. You are how old when this enters your life? Where are you?
I can remember where I was when I was reading that book. I would have been. I remember I was on I was taking the train from New Jersey into Manhattan from Montclair, and I was reading it every morning, which meant that I was probably living at my dad's house and my mom's house and commuting to the summer and work. So that must have been when I was about.
Yeah, was some of you from New York? Or just
well,
working?
I had jobs in New York. Because I grew up pretty close to the city.
Okay.
I would have been 18 when I read it. It would have been the summer of 18.
And you were transitioning to college at this time?
I was in college already.
And you went where?
It was my first summer after college. I went to the University of Chicago.
Okay. And what made you go to the Chicago to Chi-Town?
Well, my mother's from Chicago. My grandmother's from Chicago. They both went to the University of Chicago. I really liked the school. I liked the way that it was really core focused. So you take 40. When I went there, you took 42 classes over the course of the 4 years that you went. 21 of them were totally prescribed. So you took Greek thought and literature and a full year of civilization studies and a full year of language. And these were all requirements. And I just liked the idea that you were sort of forced to really look at all these other things. Philosophically, the idea is not that you want to, you don't want to learn how to do something. You want to learn how to think. And by deeply engaging with all of these different subjects, you learn how to think, and you can apply that to anything that you do, which I think is very true.
Right. That's dope. And then what was your major at the?
English language and literature.
Dope. Immediately coming into the game, knowing what you wanted to do.
I like to read, and then I almost majored in French. I didn't finish.
What was the thing?
I wanted to take a photography class. It was the dumbest thing to not finish the second major, But I don't know. I mean, I studied French all through high school and all through my school days. And then I just remember really wanting to read Marguerite Duras without reading it in translation. I loved a book called Moderato Cantabile.
Okay.
Or a novella that she wrote that's really stunningly beautiful. And I just wanted to read it, and I ended up just kind of getting caught up.
How were you finding these books? Or were these books finding you? How would you...
I first encountered Marguerite Duras in a French class in high school.
Okay.
And Moderato Cantabile was the book, but my French was so poor at that time that I couldn't really understand. I mean, I got a sense that it was something that I thought was cool, and had this great French teacher, and she kind of, would carry us along and explain what we were reading. But then I read her in English. I read The Lover, and I read Moderato Cantabile in English, and I just. So I found that through a teacher. A lot of teachers exposed me to things. I think things that I really, truly loved. Mr. Valmoro, my English teacher, when I was probably a junior in high school, was the first person to ever introduce me to Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Okay.
And I remember just being like, wow, this is very different from everything I've ever read. And it's just there were all these books on the shelf in my mother's house.
Right.
In the house that I grew up with. And at a certain point, they just all are just pieces of their objects, and you don't know what's inside of them. And I knew I liked to read, but my curiosity about every single book on that shelf was limited. And I feel I remember just getting this book, being given a copy of this Gabriel Garcia Marquez book, and being like, I don't know, it's just another book. And then discovering that there was something that I could not have anticipated inside of it. Something that I could not have imagined existing inside of it. And I think that opened up my curiosity about all of the books that were on those shelves.
So what else is in here, right?
If I could just, this random book that's just laying around could be this incredible and this, eye-opening and this moving. What else is in here? And I think that was the very beginning of sort of, this real curiosity and this real desire to sort of engage with as much as I could.
Yeah, and you bring that curiosity and that a willingness to engage in your position.
I hope so.
At the National Book Foundation. No, I mean, I think of everybody that I've seen represent the literary world, I think you've been a very fierce force in making sure that people even want to be curious about these things.
I think it's important to be a fan, I mean, it's that's how you get people to care. It's if you love something, if you think something is so great, and you just, try not to over intellectualized just sharing that.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, some of the stuff is really heady and really, really, really dense and really tough and really complicated and really important.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I loved this book, this Zora Neale Hurston Reader. And, obviously there are plenty of Zora Neale Hurston books. But as a kid, this was on my mother's shelf. And I thought, I love myself when I'm smiling. And then again, when I'm looking mean and impressive. And I thought, I want to be like that. And I loved the picture on the front,
Yeah.
And, that was my very simple entry point.
Yeah.
It wasn't a blurb from Toni Morrison. It wasn't, who had compiled it. It wasn't that Feminist Press had put out a great new book.
Yeah,
it was that there was this book that just, I saw something of me in just the cover and in the language. That sentence that Zora Neale Hurston said at some point.
Yeah.
I just saw that reflected back, and then that made me curious, and then I found more and more of myself. And also things that I disagreed with, but I found a conversation inside.
Hey, yeah.
And I think that, everything is not going to spark that for everyone. Everybody's not going to respond to every book I love or whatever. Right. But to know that, actually, it's just that simple a way into a book.
Yeah.
That your interest is sparked and there's something inside of it that you grapple or battle with, or that you feel yourself reflected back from, but it begins a conversation. You have a conversation with that book.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah,
and I like to chat, so.
Yeah, well, I'm getting that. We getting that. When I first met you, you was a publisher at Guernica.
Yes.
What is, because what I wouldn't start to do is kind of give some transparency for people who think that literature is just comprised of being a writer, and kind of get people. So what is it that a publisher does at a particular, or what was it that you did as a publisher?
Sure. I mean, as publisher, I think I was really like the business side. I was like, how does this whole thing work? How do you raise the money? How do you get the word out? How do you get people excited?
Yeah.
How do you, make sure people are reading the work of, these incredible writers that were appearing on the pages? How do you sell the ads? How do you throw a big party? How do you have a gala? How do you do any of this stuff?
Right.
So that's a lot of what I did. But it's, I think when you're working at a small nonprofit, it's really hard to describe your job a lot of the time because it's so many different things.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you're doing the taxes. Sometimes you're talking to an author. Sometimes you're negotiating a contract.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're building a contract or figuring out how a budget works or figuring out.
So it's just naturally, the job sort of evolves based on the need at the particular time.
Yeah, or it just there's a lot to do at a small organization. And so, the few people that are tasked with doing it, have to figure out how to get it done.
Yeah.
So I think, I would describe that job and my job now as just what do you do? I get it, just try to get stuff done.
Get it done.
Get
it done. And what you get done at the National Book Foundation is, I think you bring how can I say, we did that profile on you for ESPN Women's, and one of the things I've compared you to. The person I paired you to is the David Stern of the literary world.
And I had to look him up.
Yeah, you know David Stern is. And did you see how important he was? Instrumental.
I did. I learned. See, look,
that's what I like. And the whole thing is I'm always looking for reference points that other people know, because it's okay, now I know how to think of Elisa Lucas in this space.
Well, thank you. It was a very nice compliment.
Thank you. But I want to get into your sort of resistance or your insistence on being fierce and resisting, I guess, the notion of your place in the literary world with the truth that you feel like you have to tell every day. Because every time I'm on Twitter, you were dropping truth. You were saying it like you don't like Trump. You will say that. You will say what you mean. And I said this before to you, and I'm always watching, especially people of color, especially people who are not white men in power, and going, is this person going to how are they going to maneuver with this position? Are they going to give into the position and go, maybe I shouldn't say XYZ, but you seem to this power seems to allow you to be freer.
I probably should shut up more, but I've never known much how to not say what I'm thinking. Okay. Just in life. I'm not sure that it's position or just disposition, really. It's just how I it's how I experience the world, is that we communicate, and I work in a world that's about communication. Yeah. And I always have, whether it's been film or theater or literature. It's this is about ideas and sharing them, and the fact that we have brains and that we want to engage with one another in different mediums. Yeah. And so, I don't know, I think I just, on one level, I think I just am a really communicative person.
Yeah.
It's like I talk a lot, I share a lot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty transparent and open. I think the second thing about being really politically open on Twitter or in public is just that, I mean, there are politics and then there is what we are going through right now. And I think that this is a really tragic and important moment for Americans where we are dealing with such ugliness that's been always there, but it's so present. And it's like this, deadlock. And you just see so many people giving into apathy and giving into their worst selves. And I just think that we can disagree about the debt ceiling. We can disagree about tax law. We can disagree about whether or not even governmental support is important for the arts,
right,
or whether or not the arts should be able to sustain themselves, right? Like,
right.
I mean, we know where I fall in that argument, but it's like,
right.
I will allow in my own personal life, like that push and pull to exist.
Yeah, but not
right. People are coming from different places, but this is like a wholesale desire to undermine the fabric of everything that I've understood to be the United States of America.
Yeah.
And so I think that, all of us should be vocal about where we're at.
Yeah.
Because I think that it creates the pressure to make sure that things that really shouldn't don't happen.
Damn right.
It's because it's distressing.
Nah, that's real. That's real. That's real. And that's why I said, like, I'm always going to be one of your biggest fans.
I'm not going to get on the internet and say I hate Republicans.
No, and that's not...
because that's about people. Like, that's about a person, who's decided to be a Republican, who's decided to
right.
vote a certain way, who is a set of opinions that they've, and things that have happened to them in their life that have defined who they are politically and personally. And I may not agree. I may disagree all the way to the end of the world with them.
Right.
But I'm not going to say you don't have a right to be who you are.
Right.
But the agenda of certain politicians and the way that we are manipulated into believing that certain things are in our best interest and that bothers me. So it's like, so I'm not like against Republicans. I am really against this administration.
No, and that's a lot of times when people don't listen, they hear other things that's not being said, right? Because it's like that their ears are tuned to hear differently.
But professionally, I don't think it's my place to be against Republicans. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm about readers. Like, I don't care where you live and who you voted for. That does not change my desire to encourage you to read a book. And to make sure that you are offered an invitation to participate in the work that we promote.
And what is the work the National Book Foundation promotes?
Well, the National Book Foundation is best known for the National Book Awards.
It's the Oscars of the literary world. That's the running.
We've said that a lot this year. The Oscars of books, and we award 4 major awards every year: fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and young people's literature. And we're just about to get started. Award season is almost here.
And then I know is the long list or the short list that comes out next week?
It's the long list.
Okay. Okay.
So 10 titles in each of the 4 categories.
And then when does the short list release?
And then the finalist list will be announced on October 4th.
Okay. So tell us about the different programs, because the National Book Foundation does like Book Up and like just explain.
Yeah, sure. So we do the National Book Awards. It's this huge thing that everybody knows about. We also do 5 Under 35, which honors 5 debut fiction writers under 35.
Okay.
And that's another sort of like thing that happens during National Book Awards week. And,
Tracy O'Neill was one of them we had.
Yeah, Tracy O'Neill was definitely one of ours. So we do that, but then we also, our mission is to celebrate the best in American literature, to enhance its audience, but also to enhance the cultural value of great writing in America, right? So it's like, how do you do that? Well, of course, we can celebrate the awards and we can make sure that people get to them, but there are all these other ways that you have to work with people to make sure that they are thinking about literature and that it's a part of their lives. So how do you do that? We have educational programs. So we do a middle school program that's after school called Book Up, and so we go into after school sites, sometimes with our school or community center, and we pair a group of students with a writer, and they get to read. They get to read together. They talk about books, they pick books, they go on field trips and get to buy books with money that we give them for that express purpose. And the idea is to encourage a lifelong love of reading, to help young people build a home library because we think that home ownership is really important. We also think that visiting libraries is really important.
Yeah.
But having this, sort of like this value around the book.
Yeah.
And then choice, right? So choice is really important, that young people are able to like say, this is what I'm interested in, and let me spend some time figuring out what that is and what books suit me. Because that's really like for me, I remember becoming a real proper reader.
Right.
Like a real reader after college. And that was the first year of my life.
That's actually the same for me.
Yeah. It was the first time I didn't have a curriculum that I had to read. It's like I'd maybe read a couple books a year that were like just because it was summer and I wanted to check something out. But a lot of the time it was just like, here are the 12 books you need to read in the next 3 months for this class. And that's a different way to be with books. That's like the homework part. And I think that, like, oh my God, this is like a treat I get. And it can be about whatever it is, something that I'm just interested in. It's like that changes the game. And the woman who started that program, Leslie Shippen, did an amazing job, like, designing it.
Right.
Because it really hits every note.
Yeah.
It hits every note. And it's really beautifully
and y'all expand it, because I know, like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, anyone who's in the literary world sort of implicitly know this, but people outside of it probably feel it more. Is that the literary world is like New York centric. So most of the things are stationed on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I know you're expanding it.
When I came in, we were already in a bunch of different cities. So last year we started in Los Angeles. We've been in Huntsville, Texas. We've been in Detroit, and we're here in New York.
Okay.
And we'll see where we go. But the big thing that we did to expand like our footprint nationally this year was a thing called Book Rich Environments.
Okay.
Which is like a partnership with HUD and the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Ed, the Urban Libraries Council, and the Campaign for Grade Level Reading.
Okay.
And so what the National Book Foundation did as part of this like big coalition was we asked some publishers if they would donate books to us that we could give to young people in housing authorities around the country. So Penguin Random House gave us 200,000 books.
Wow.
Hachette and Macmillan gave us
Is that how you
donations
pronounce
as
it?
well.
I was saying hatchet. Keep going.
And
I'm sorry.
you're funny. You all can't see this, but he has the cutest little pants on. Meanwhile, so they gave us all these donations, and we were able to give out 270,000 books to 36 different public housing authorities around the country.
Okay.
And so that puts us in all these different states and able to do programming. And so what we did was we gave the Phoenix Housing Authority all these books, and they got to decide how they wanted to engage their communities with it. So one state, and I can't even remember who it was, used it when people have to come and fill out their housing vouchers, which is like this obnoxious chore that anybody wouldn't want to do, but you come in and you get a bag full of books.
That's dope.
For children and families.
That's dope.
And so it was a really cool way to like make sure that we were, showing up where people are and making sure that books were a part of that place. So that's some of the work that we do. We have a conference called Why Reading Matters, which is great, which brings together activists and librarians and booksellers and people who work at nonprofit organizations to just like talk about how you engage audiences, how you get people to care about reading and to think about how to make change using that work. We give out the Innovations in Reading Prize, which went to Alvin Irby from Barbershop Books this year.
Oh yeah, in Harlem.
Which is really cool.
Dude,
yeah, he's
doing
really,
dope
really,
work.
really dope.
Really doing dope work.
And that's to celebrate people who are doing, really innovative work, engaging audiences around the country. It's like, it's like really unsung. A lot of people just don't get the recognition for doing these things that changes.
And
that
we
change
don't
lives.
look at the people who support, like I said, like the literary thing is like, oh, you're a writer, and that's the only contribution most people think. And so when you hear editors and booksellers and all these type of
well, there's a whole, the whole community is there's so many pieces to it. It's like this one book. This book is an anthology of things. So the number of editors and publishers and
research assistants and people,
research assistants, but book jacket designers and publicists and. The executive director of the nonprofit Feminine Press that figured out how to get the book done, and the photographer that took the picture, and there's so many things. The copy editor who copy edited it. It's like it takes so many people to make a book happen. And it feels like we think of it as this independent, and it is. You know what? A lot of what books are is a conversation between a writer and a blank piece of page.
Right.
And yes, that is very real. But in terms of moving that to another human being,
right?
It requires so many people, and also, it's like it's hard to work alone. If I had to do my job without the input or advice of, dozens of people, I'd probably be really bad at it, you know, but it's like, but I am able to ask people, you know, how do you do this? Or what's the best way to do this? Or is this working? Or does this look good? Do you think this is going to be the thing that people want? And I think that having an editor, it's like, ideally, and again, I'm neither writer nor editor, but I imagine that, you know, that you have to have somebody there that you can test work with, that you can see if it's working, that you can discuss your voice and your vision, and you can, you know, workshop things a bit with. And I think that when it seems like it's very good, that seems like what happens between a writer and an editor.
That's dope. Few more questions. I know you gotta get you out of here. Quick thing. Tell us about what we can expect this year at the National Book Awards. What are some things you're bringing?
We're going to give us our best shot. I mean, I think that, you know, this is the 68th National Book Awards. Damn. And it's a tradition. And so, you know, was never going to come in here and just rip it up and be like, here's the brand new National Book Awards. How arrogant would I be if that's what I did? So it's small. It's incremental. It's changed. You don't turn a big ship in 10 seconds. You slowly move it. So I think that, you know, last year we added a big old glamorous red carpet and a tent, and, you know, and we had a great host, and, you know, and I think that we put together a great night. There was a big old disco ball. Larry Wilmore.
Oh yeah, do you know who y'all got this
I
year?
don't. I can't tell you.
God damn it.
But yeah, I think that we're going to keep pushing and keep trying to make it really meaningful and moving and entertaining. And celebratory, and really, you know, just try to do books justice.
Yeah.
That's the best I can really say. I mean, it's also, we don't know what the books are, so it's like the main event is not what I do. The main event are the writers that are there. Yeah. That's the main event, the excitement about who's going to win and who are we celebrating. Yeah. It's like that comes from these lists that we'll have next week. Yeah. So it's hard to say, because it's like, that's the most exciting part of it, is that we have, you know, the best change that happens every year is that we have, you know, 40 new authors in September to think about, and then we have 20 authors with us at the awards. Last year we had 22 because we had a book with 3 authors.
Yeah. That was March. Yeah.
And it's really like, that's to me the most spectacular. So it's I think it'll be exciting as always.
Last question before I get you out of here. Formal question. What have you seen shift in your time as executive director, change in sort of like an immediate wave? Like, have you seen the response to like either the organization or to books happen because like you're a black woman in that position? Have you seen people kind of regard?
Well, the whole country started reading books because I'm a black woman. Just kidding. I don't believe that change is fast.
Right.
I think that I'm glad that people are paying attention to the work that we're doing. I think that people have been tuning in, and they, you know, I'm more likely to say, hello, I work at the National Book Foundation, or I work on the National Book Awards, and somebody will be like, oh, cool, rather than what's that?
Oh, okay.
You know,
so
I think that there's that. And I think, you know, what I've tried to do is just, you know, bring my energy to the work that we're doing, you know, and the whole team is, I think, bringing their energy to the work that we're doing. So I think that it's lively. You know, I'm just trying to spit and polish.
Spit it up.
Spit and polish.
So, you know, for being so polished and so fly.
Oh, what's this?
This is the lit pen for being lit. You've been lit since I met you.
Oh, look at that.
At AWP is upside down.
Oh.
The AWP we met in Minneapolis.
Cool.
I've been learning to say that. I used to say Minneapolis. Oh. I used to get ragged on. But when I first met you, we did your literary swag.
It was terrible.
That's your opinion. So we're going to do it now.
Oh, no.
3 writers, 3 clothing designers. You can go.
Oh, Lord.
And then you can go.
Always hard. Okay, so 3 writers that I love. Jasmine Ward.
Boom.
I love C.E. Morgan.
Okay.
I love James Baldwin.
Oh, right.
And I love like so many more than that. So I just feel like it's never really representative.
Boom. And then swag.
Swag. What do I like? I like APC a lot.
Okay. They make some good denim.
I like. It's so hard. I don't know. I like Madewell a lot.
Okay.
Everybody loves Madewell. It's like.
It's Madewell.
It's Madewell. And I really, what would I buy if I could just buy? If I could buy anything that I wanted all the time, who would I want? Probably like Oh God. I don't know.
Drawing blanks.
Yeah, man.
Who makes a good shoe?
I don't know.
Who makes it? What shoes do you typically like?
I buy cheap shoes.
That don't matter. Like it's a swag. Like that's a if you like cheap shoes. I don't even like saying that word because it's like if the shoe.
Cheap. I don't know. I like right. I just like I don't know. Can we start again?
Do you want to start from the top?
No. Just kidding.
All right. So APC made well and just typically. Are you a wedges woman? Are you a heels? Are you a flats?
I'm not a heels person.
Okay.
I do not wear the heels. I
So
like
what's your
a
most
solid
comfortable
flat
shoe?
shoe?
Okay.
I'm really into the Allbirds. Those like all wool sneakers.
There you go.
They're like super comfortable.
There you go.
I'll believe in that.
And that's been this episode.
It's so hard every time you getting the style stuff out of me. I'm always like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then you come through like with pantsuits and this.
Pantsuits.
Yeah, not pantsuit.
Jumpsuits.
Jumpsuits. Yeah.
I like a jumpsuit.
Jumpsuits.
I really like a jumpsuit.
You always come fly. You always come fly. And I guess because you're fly, you're like inundated with language. You can't. It's too much to even describe.
I can't even. How could I describe?
How could you limit it?
My high fashion, mornings. It's just like it just happens.
It does. So this has been another episode of Lit. You here again? I mean, we're about to be out. Lisa Lucas, is there anything else you want to tell people? Is there any events coming up between now and November
Just keep posted. Check us out, nationalbook.org.
Okay.
And
follow
lots
the
of
Twitter.
Twitter is at National Book, and we'll be talking about books for the next 3 months.
Instagram
is at National Book Foundation.
Okay. We gonna make sure
We're upping our Instagram.
And then
game
you'll
currently.
follow you. Follow.
Yeah,
Make
I'm
sure
Lika
you follow.
Luca everywhere.
Lika Luca.
L-I-K-A-L-U-C-A.
I've always meant to ask you, what is that name?
Well, my name is Lisa Catherine Lucas.
Okay.
So it's Lisa.
Okay.
Catherine shortened, and then Lucas with no S.
Okay. So
it's just my name.
I always thought it was a nickname.
It's really stupid. That name is like my AOL IM name from when I was 17.
Yeah.
And then it just stuck.
I still got
don't
my
know how
Hotmail.
I'm still with that. So
I still got my Hotmail. It's all good.
I do not have my Hotmail.
It be like that sometimes. So y'all can follow us at Lit Platform. Follow me at Yadon. I'm talking to Mike. I apologize for that. Follow the people who's doing the show and making sure it's lit. Pink Pig Pro, Pink Pig Production. Shout out to them, and shout out to my man Cyril Jules who making this music oh so lit. This is Yadon Israel, Liddy Fontaine with Liddy Lucas. That's a good name. Your name is Lily Lucas from now on. I'm going to call you Liddy Lucas.
Which just renamed me. Awesome.
Liddy Lucas. I hope that's not like an aggression, but
No.
Liddy Lucas, Liddy Fontaine, we out.